Alright guys, last lecture before spring break, hooray. So we got some things to do today. I have a lecture on the last SQL lecture we're going to do. It's not going to be very long, maybe an hour-ish. And then the last hour-ish, I'm going to pass out the midterm exams. And I'll let you guys take a look at them, and I'm going to go over answers as well. So after I go over the answers, if you still have questions, we can talk about it. I have to ask that you can't take your exams home. It's our policy because a lot of strange things have happened. Maybe one day we'll find a better way to. I mean, if it were up to me, we wouldn't do exams. I think exams are a little, I don't know. Anyway, but it's not up to me. So let me give you back to your exams at the end of the class because we got to get through today's lecture material and then we'll look at the midterms. Okay. What was I losing my mind now too? So lecture. So today's lecture is fairly short, and then you do have an assignment due on Sunday as usual. The assignment is not too. It's not a long one. It's just writing more SQL statements like you have done before. So I suggest. It looks like a lot of you actually started earlier, and I even saw there were a few submissions already, so I was like, whoa, that's kind of fast. But if you wanna, if you're one of those people who already submitted, and then after today's lecture you realize you missed something or you misunderstood something, go ahead and you can. I've allowed multiple submissions, and we grade the last submission. So if you wanna resubmit after today's lecture, you totally can. Alright, so let's go ahead and finish up our SQL stuff here. If you can please open up my SQL workbench as usual. Oh, let me go ahead and make sure I close all this. This is one morning section. Okay, so we're going to write more SQL just like we did on Monday. If this would close for me. Okay, alright, if you go to my SQL workbench, go ahead and open up your connection again. And then once it's open, it's going to hopefully create a new. If it doesn't create one, you can do Command T for a new one. Command T will give you new files, and we're going to write some more SQL statements here today. And then when you come back from spring break, we'll finally tie all this together back to our website and FileZilla and all that fun stuff. How we actually using the browser and all that, how to grab data and all that fun stuff. Okay, so get that open. Let us start this as well. Okay. On Monday, we did our first SQL. We did a lot of searching, though. We just mainly focused on searching for data. We retrieved data. We filtered data. We used like conditions, like where, prices, whatever. And we did order by to do chronological order. So we were just searching through our database. We didn't actually do much to the database itself, right? But now we're going to talk about how to actually manipulate the database, how to update records. Maybe you want to change one of the artist's name because they changed their name, or and the reason why we talk about this again in ITP, we like to be very practical, and these are things that people use every day, right? So I want to take let's look at Yelp, for example. Okay, I hope people still use Yelp, right? You still use Yelp, right? Okay. Yelp is not a dinosaur yet, I hope. Okay. So if you've used Yelp before and you look for a specific or any kind of giant web application that allows you to search, right? If I look for like Portos, right? Like let's say I'm looking for a bakery called Portos or something, and I click search. Well, what is that doing? We're searching through most likely some kind of database, and we're pulling Portos out of that database, right? And most of these web applications you see, whether it's Yelp or Reddit or YouTube even, most likely some kind of SQL query is being run somewhere. Whether it's an automatic script that triggers something or some kind of SQL script is being run, most likely. Again, I don't work for Yelp, so I don't know their exact, what their tech stack looks like or anything like that. But most likely, especially big companies, they still love to use SQL. I know NoSQL these days is like a trend, and everyone's jumping on that train these days too. But It's safe to say most of the bigger companies, especially companies with a ton of data, SQL is kind of the reliable go-to language to query data out of your database. So searching is retrieving data, right? That's a very common practice you see in any web application. So SQL is doing that. Or let's take a look at any of these specific records. So like portals. So if you could imagine, I don't know, again, I don't work for Yelp, I don't know the exact database design, but if you imagine, they probably have a giant table called like restaurants or something, right? And they probably have all these columns about the restaurant. And then they probably have a one-to-many relationship with reviews, right? Reviews, right? So they probably have another table with reviews, and they have like a bunch of reviews, and there's like a one-to-many relationship. So one restaurant has many reviews, right? Or maybe something like that. I don't know. I mean, again, just kind of guesstimating here. But right, so all these stuff we're learning, again, this is not just because we have nothing else better to do. It's because these SQL queries are being run in the real world. People use SQL every day. SQL is an extremely powerful query language. It's been around for a long time. That's why a lot of classes teach SQL, because it's been around for so long. But it's good to understand, or it's good to know the base fundamentals of SQL. So in any database, in any web applications, there's 4 main features, right? We talked about retrieving. What about if I wanted to create a new or add a new review? Let's go ahead. Oh, somebody gave a 1-star to portals? No. No way. Why? What? Yeah, let's go up and modify the database, right? What the heck? They guess they don't like the less fillings. Come on. It's already cheap. Okay, it's dirt cheap already. Come on. Okay, anyway, I can't believe that's come on now. It's the Burbank one too. So anyway, all right, so back to yeah, we got to go hack the database and update that. Anyway, let's say I want to add my own review, which I'm not actually going to do, but let's say I want to add my review. Right, I click on write a review. I'm going to write up a review. I'm never going to give them 1-star. I'll give them 5-star always, right? And then give them that, and I'm going to post a review. What does that mean? That means I'm adding a new record. I'm adding a new review into this, whatever their database looks like. It's probably a ginormous database. They probably have multiple copies and backups, and they probably have multiple instances and all that stuff. But anyway, simply speaking, when I add a review, I am inserting a new record, right? A new record, not a column, a new record into their probably like a reviews table or something. Somewhere SQL is going to probably do that. Okay, and then if I want to delete my review, same idea. If I click delete, it's going to remove it off that record probably. If I want to update, if I want to change my mind, like that person there, if that person wants to change their mind from a 1-star to a 5-star, for example, it's slightly different. It's not creating a new one, it's updating an existing record, right? So those are 4 main features when you're working with any kind of web application. The bread and butter, the very essence of any web application is create, retrieve, update, and delete, also known as CRUD or CRUD. But those are the 4 main features of any web application. If you really think about it, any web application you use, you probably are doing some kind of CRUD or CRUD in some form. All right, so let's go. So we're going to be talking about that a little bit. Using SQL, we're going to learn how to add a new record. We already talked about retrieving, and then we're going to update a record, and we're going to talk about deleting a record, and we're going to talk about some best practices as well. When it comes to creating, updating, deleting, it's pretty straightforward, right? You add a record, you update a record and stuff, but there are some things just to watch out for. That's why that's going to be the focus of our talk. Some things to watch out for. So let's go ahead and try that out. So let's talk about some of this. So again, key things we're going to talk about today. We're going to add some new data. We're going to update data. We're going to delete data. And then the last 2 points is a little bit. It's not quite the same. We're going to talk about views, and we're also going to talk about aggregate functions, which is useful for running some stats on your data. Because if you have a bunch of data, now you want to start running some stats. That's probably a different department. There's like data analysts and analytics people that usually do that. But as a developer, you might have to give them these stats for them to work with. So it's also good to know some of these aggregate functions as well. Okay, so first things first, let's talk about adding a new record. Adding a new record is pretty straightforward. We're going to use something called insert. So when you're deleting things, before you actually delete, go ahead and delete it. Right? If you just, that's pretty easy. Right? If I never delete anything, is deleted or something, having a lot of trouble, never delete it. And, oh, that's their account that debacle. So I'm very into deleting things. So let's go ahead and try that out. Okay. We have MySQL Workbench open. On the left side, you have all these databases. Make sure the song database is the one that's bolded as usual because we're working with this one. We want to write SQL against this database, not the phones or the film or anything like that, or your DVD, the song one. So make sure it's bolded. Okay. All right. Once it's bolded, let's go ahead and write some SQL code here. Right. So the first thing first, we're going to do something very straightforward. We're going to add an album, Fight On by artist Spirit of Troy. Let's do that. Add album. Troy. Okay. Sounds fairly easy enough, but I kind of forgot all my albums, right? So let's take a look at that. Select from albums. Okay, so we have all these albums. Alrighty. Okay, so to add something to albums, I just need the album ID, title, and the artist ID. So let's go ahead and write that up. Okay, insert into is a keyword here. We're going to say insert into the name of the table, albums. Okay, we're going to parentheses, and we're going to put columns in the name of the columns here. It's going to be title, comma, artist ID. Okay. Notice I'm not doing album ID right now because album ID is my primary key, and you could see that it's actually auto increments. So if I just simply do this, the next primary key is just gonna it's just gonna increment, and I don't have to worry about it. It's gonna be 349. And I just realized this is from sorry guys, let me delete this. Okay, it's gone. Pretend it's not there. Okay? For you guys it shouldn't be there. But for me it was there because we did it in the morning section. Then that means I gotta okay. Alright, cool. So look. We're not done yet. Alright, insert into these are the columns. And then we're gonna do a one-to-one kind of mapping thing here where just values, the first one's gonna be the title, right? So the title is gonna be called Fight On. Okay, comma. And the next one's gonna be the artist ID. But the artist ID, I have no idea what the freaking artist ID is though, right? Because I don't know, there's like so many artists there. So it looks like this is a good time to do select from artists again, and then just check. Oh my gosh, there's like so many artists, right? How the heck do I know which artist, right? So maybe this is a good time to do a quick where artist where name equals, or maybe name like. Okay, just to see if I can find any other matches like Spirit. So for your assignment, you're gonna have to do something similar like this, just to you want to double check that it even exists. Oh look, we have two artists doing the same thing. Uh-oh, that's not good. Let's just pick one. Let's just say 276. Okay, so we're gonna do 276. Oh, this is for morning section. If you don't see one, most of you will not see it, or all of you won't see it. If you don't see artist Spirit of Troy, we're going to have to, means we're going to have to insert it. So we're going to add an artist named Spirit. Oh man, we're going to have 3 now. Okay, let's do that. Let's go and do that as well. We're going to insert into artists, okay, name. Okay, because I don't need to do the primary key here. We're going to do value Spirit of Troy. Okay, quite a bit of work just to add an album, right? But this is very typical. Okay, if you run that, okay, and if I run this again, select from here, I'm going to see that now I have 3. Well, at least I have 3, but you should only have 1 record here. Okay, and again, you notice that's auto-incrementing every time, right? So we have 276, 277, and now we have 278. Not always. We just know that in this database, it's checked. AI has been checked. So you do want to double check that it actually is. Yeah. Okay, so now let's whatever the ID, maybe for you guys is probably like 276. Let's go ahead and do that then. Okay, like 276. Okay, we'll type in 276 here. Okay, because that's the artist ID. Okay. All right, I want to just run this line of code, right? If I want to run just one line of code, make sure you click on the second lightning bolt, not the first one. If you click on the first lightning bolt, this whole page is going to get run, and you don't want to do that because then you're going to keep creating a bunch of Spirit of Troy artists. Right, if I click on the second one here, there you go. I get an error here. Unknown column artist. Oh, because I spelled it wrong. Artist. So yeah, these are very useful to know. Artist ID. Okay, go ahead. All right, cool. So when I add something to the data to a table, I'm not gonna get like a result grid, right? I just have to see the result. The action here says, oh, 1 row has been affected, right? Everything looks good. There's a green check mark. There's no errors. Okay, so how do I then check? Yes.
I'm getting an error that says foreign key constraint fails. Does that mean did I have to like insert the artist Spirit of Troy first?
Yeah, you need to insert this first. Yes.
Oh, okay.
It has to exist first. So yeah, make sure your Spirit of Troy exists, and then you want to add your album. Okay. All right, how do I double check then, right? How do I double check if it even got added? So then let's go ahead and do another select statement. Maybe we do like albums, right? And then if I search there, there's like so many. How do I really know if it got added, right? Like it's kind of, oh, there it is. It did get added. Okay, but that's kind of annoying, right? So actually what you can also do, just to help you out here, if you do order by album ID descending, right? If we go flip the order, we know then that the last one is going to be shown first, right? We're going to go backwards. So the last one that was added is 349. That's fight on. Oh, perfect. We just added that. Okay. For you, it might be 348. Again, sorry, this is from my morning section. I totally forgot. Oh my gosh. Come on. And my MySQL Workbench crashed because it was doing that yesterday for me too. Let me go ahead. Okay, hopefully it auto-saved. Okay, wonderful. Okay, so if I run that, let me run that one more time. Now I'm seeing the backwards. I'm seeing from the one that was added the last. So that's kind of useful. Any questions about inserting? Okay, inserting again, pretty straightforward. You insert one record at a time kind of thing. You just need to make sure all your column names are named exactly right and all that fun stuff. Okay, let's keep going. All right, let's go ahead and update some tracks here. I don't think that Tribute to Troy track exists. Okay, so let's go ahead and update a track. I'm going to go ahead and, now that we did add, let's go ahead and update. Okay, so we're going to update now. So we're gonna update a record that already exists. Let's go look for it real quick though, right? Let's like we're okay. We need to update this track, so let's go and look for this track here so we can get a little more information. I believe it doesn't exist, but let me just double check. Yeah, it doesn't exist. No records returned. So you know what I'm gonna do, because I'm a little lazy right now, I'm gonna select okay, let's go to just the first one here. Alright, track ID number 1. I'm gonna update this track. Instead of tribute to Troy, I'm gonna update for those about to rock. Come on. What is it? Oh, okay, it didn't. Okay, it lies to me sometimes. Alright, so for those to rock. Okay, select from tracks. Okay, we're gonna select that one. Not select. Okay, let's go ahead and update. Right, I want to update this track here. I want to change. Let's do the first one first. Let's do composer because that's kind of easy, right? We're gonna update. We're going to update the tracks. Okay, tracks table. We're gonna set the composer, right? Composer to Tommy Trojan. Okay. So technically, I can stop here. This is where tragic things will happen. What this will do is it's gonna up my composer is this field, right? So it's very ambiguous. Like it's gonna think I want all my composers, all 3,000 some of them, to become Tommy Trojan now. That would be really bad, right? And then you just lost all that data. You have like it's really bad. Therefore, that's why this where clause is extremely important. Okay, where, like which record do you want to update? I want to update this track here. Okay, so you might think we could do, where name like equals, right? Where name equals for those about to rock. Okay, I'm going to run this one. Oh, ha 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 ha. Awesome. I'm glad that I got an error actually. Okay, notice this error response here. You are using safe mode, blah, 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 blah. I can't see the rest. And you try to update a table without a where that uses a key column. Ah, ha, ha. I'm glad it caught it for us. Okay, what the heck does that mean? So this sounds like it should work, correct? However, this is not gonna, notice how even MySQL Workbench is blocking you. Okay, so these are one of the things in the development world where it works, but it's not a good practice. Let me tell you why. So if I do something like this, where it says update my tracks, set the composer to Tommy Trojan, where name equals this. What if there's multiple songs named this thing here? Which I don't think there's a lot of songs named like this, but you never know. What if like we were looking for I Love You, right? I'm sure there's like at least 5 songs named I Love You. Then we're gonna get 5 songs, and we're gonna update all 5 songs to Tommy Trojan. That is not what, unless that's exactly what you want, then go for it. But it's possible that you probably don't want to update all 5 songs to have the exact same composer, right? And that's why actually MySQL Workbench is blocking us as well. It's like it's saying, hey, like, are you sure? Be careful. You don't want to do this kind of thing. So instead of using column names like this, okay, it's very good practice, okay, very good practice to do where, okay, where instead of using a column name like this, to use a primary key or any kind of key, but usually a primary key. So track ID, for example, right? Because I know that ID 1 is unique, right? Primary key is unique, so I know that when I do track ID 1, it means literally only update the composer of that one track. So it's going to run that one. Okay, looks like I got update was successful. Again, I don't actually see anything. Let's go ahead and do select from tracks. Okay, there you go. We have, there's my track ID number 1, and my composer now is Tommy Trojan. So yeah, never do this. where you're updating by the column, a typical column name, do it by the primary key. And on your assignment as well, you're going to run into this. Make sure you update using the primary key. Don't use it on column, just because it's so important that you do it like this. You will get points marked off if you, like maybe probably like 1 point, very minimal amount of point, but you will get marked off if you do something like this, for example. Okay, because again, you can accidentally update multiple records. Unless you were very intentional, like you knew exactly that was what you wanted to do. You don't want to do that. You usually want to update by primary key. Here's another reason why we like to do primary key is think about it. When you do where, it's going to search through my entire database, right? It's going to look through my 3,000 records and it's going to look for a name that matches I love you. That's a lot. That's like that's going to take up a bit of resources, and it's going to take some time. So performance issues arise. In this day and age, it's a very small amount of performance issue. It's almost like not even worth to mention. But I do want to show that rather than running through an entire database based on a string, using an integer will be a lot quicker way to go through all the records. So when I do where's track ID 1, it's just going to look for my primary key. It's going to be very quick. It's going to run through all my numbers and find, oh, there's track ID number 1. Update my composer. Questions, concerns, comments? Oh, yeah, we gotta do one more thing. We have to change the album ID, right? Let's do album ID as well. So again, we can update. It's not a good idea to update multiple records, but we can update multiple fields, columns. So if I want to update the composer and my album ID, okay. Okay, I could do that in one line with a comma. Let's say I want to, oh, I already changed it to 348, but okay, 348, that's the ID of my album here. All right, let's go ahead and run this. Okay, it says it's updated. Let's go ahead and check a look, and it should be updated. Okay, 348. And as well as Tommy, I mean, we updated it again, but it doesn't change since it's same. Okay, questions, concerns, thoughts, comments. Okay, let's talk about delete then. Oh, I didn't create this track. Oh man. Wait, I did this last time. Okay, let's go ahead and delete a track. I'm just gonna pick one. Let's try to delete it. Okay, we have 3,000 tracks. Let's go ahead and try to delete this one here. As fast as a shark. Or fast as a shark. Okay. Again, deleting is permanent. I hope that I stressed that enough. So you have to be really careful. So usually before I delete anything, I do select from tracks. Like I just do a quick lookup, like where track. I'm just being extra careful here. ID equals which one is that? 3, right? Okay, I just want to be super careful here. Make sure. Okay, track ID 3 is fastest shark. And the same rules apply when you're deleting something. Okay, when you delete something, you want to delete by the primary key. So you're extra sure you're only deleting that specific record here. Okay, so now that I'm pretty sure fastest shark is what's being deleted. Let's go ahead and delete this. And we got an error. So there's something to think about when you delete something. Usually you can delete something with no problem. However, there is a problem wherein, let's think about it. So we haven't really talked about all the other tables in our song database. Okay, but there are other tables out there. There's like invoice items and all these things. So this database is also keeping track of if somebody purchased our track, any songs. So it looks like if there's a foreign key constraint fails on invoice items. So what that's saying is that this track is being referenced in another table. It's a foreign key in another table. So if I look up let's look at that index, select. Okay. I know we haven't really looked at this table, but let's take a look at it real quick, right? Notice what it does here. Invoice line ID 1, invoice ID, track ID 2. Oh, okay, so my tracks are being referenced here. Oh, so what happens? So if I delete this track, like this table is going to get all messed up. So that's why it's not letting me delete my track ID 3 here. Yes.
Wouldn't it just be?
So the way that, right, you can, so the way it looks like to me that the way that this database was designed is that it just won't let you delete it. Yeah, but yes, you're right. You can actually, when you're setting up the database, when you're designing, you could actually say, hey, when I delete this, just null it. Just say track ID like 3, wherever it says it's track ID 3 here, just null it out. Right, in your assignment, you're not going to run into this because everything's pretty set up the way so that you don't actually delete things from the other table. But I did want to point this out because this does happen a lot, and you have to, how do you handle this? Do you just do a null here? Or actually another possibility is if you delete ID 3 here, maybe you delete it off the invoice in the invoice line as well. So it's like a cascading effect. You can set that in when you're creating databases as well. Questions, concerns? Okay, so we did adding, updating, deleting, our bread and butter when it comes to making web applications, or really dealing with any kind of large data sets. Okay, changing gears a bit, we're going to talk about something called views. Okay. Views are different. Views are not like part of your inserting, updating, deleting, anything like that, but we do want to talk about this. Views are virtual tables created from SQL queries. What the heck does that mean? They look like typical tables. However, they're more like temporary tables. We're not actually creating tables or anything like this. View just allows us to store certain SQL queries. Think of it even as like a variable almost. So let's say like I wanted to see all the pop songs in my database. Okay, that means I have to like variable. They're not really that's the name of the view statement. Meaning that later down again, just say pop song. Case we're working on database together. They have to act right. So it just makes your life accordingly. So let's take, and you can also drop view. Boom. Let's try that out. All right, let's create a view. Oh wait, where did it go? We're gonna create a view. Where did it go? There's like a prompt here. Create a view. Let's keep it simple. Create a view that displays all albums and their artist names. We kind of did this already. Show album ID, title, and artist name. Okay. All right, the way we're going to write this, again, create, right? We start with create. However, just to save us some headache, I'm going to add one more piece of information here. We're going to do create or replace. So we're kind of taking care of two things here. Let's give this a name, album artist. Okay. So what I'm doing here is if a view named album artist already exists, I'm just going to update it, that replace. So this is like just a nice little thing to say. Create one if it doesn't exist yet, or replace it if it already exists. Okay, AS for alias. Right, so let's go ahead and write the SQL statement now, or the select statement now. Oh wait, we only want like album ID, the title, and the name. Oh. I'm like, what's, okay, okay, I need, yeah, like I'm making a view, so I need a view. Okay. Okay. So this piece, you've seen before, we did this on Monday, where we're joining the albums and the artists together. So it's the same thing that we already did before, but now we're creating a view out of it, meaning kind of like a variable, like I said, a temporary thing where temporarily I am creating a view here, and I'm naming it album artist. So if I run this, nothing's gonna show up. Oh, where's my? Oh no, my results is gone. Oh no, I don't wanna. I have no idea how to bring it back. Okay, but anyway, so we're not gonna see anything because this is like a one-time thing. Like it created a view, and that's kind of it. Now, if I want to actually, you know, like call, it's not really calling, but if I want to call my view or see my view, I just now do select from album artist. Okay. Right? So I don't have to write this select join statement over and over again. I just do call my view, and there you go. I get like my album ID, the title, and then this is my artist, the artist of that album. Here, let me scroll a little bit. Okay, cool. So here's also a little nice thing about views is that it's not like you create it once and that's it, right? I can update these views as well. So let's say I updated the view a little bit, like change, like later down the line I said, I need to add a little more information here. Like let's say I wanted to add like order by or something, maybe like an order by, I want to order by, what do I say here? Like artist.name or something. Okay, so so it's maybe like descending. Okay. So I'm saying I want to see my art, the same thing, but in a different order. Like I want to see the backwards alphabetically. Okay. So if I run this, okay, let's go ahead and run this. Okay, I can't see anything, but basically I updated my view, right? So if the next time I call my view, so I don't think call is the right word, but now when I call my view, right, when I run just this line here, now you see how it's backwards. So I can update my view, and then it'll update accordingly. So when I update my view, what happens is actually every time I call my view, what's actually happening is this SQL statement gets run. Like so it's a fresh. So that's why I don't want to call it a variable, because it's not actually being stored. It's more like a reference kind of thing. It's a pointer, if you will. So it's saying every time I say run album artist, all this gets run right away. Yes.
How come it won't compile without the as after the new name?
Here? Yeah, so this is kind of the alias, right? We're kind of saying like save album artist as all of this. So you do need to add it's like in a sense it is kind of aliasing. So that word is required. Any other questions? Views are pretty useful when you have to reference the same table stuff over and over again. Here's another one, but I won't go into it. I'll go ahead and post this one. Last topic of the day, aggregate functions. Like I mentioned earlier, with SQL we can do something like some basic stats, some math on it. It's built into SQL. It's neat. It's pretty neat. There's more than this, I think, but this is kind of the basics. So you can kind of tell here, right? We can calculate averages. We can calculate min, max, sum. That's useful. Like even like how long something is, the character length, and concatenate. Let's start with some simple stuff here. Okay, how many tracks? Right, let's get like how many tracks. And we already talked about there's like 3,000 some tracks, right? But if I want to get like a very specific number, how do I do that? We're gonna do the same kind of idea. We're still gonna do select because I still want to like retrieve some data, right? And what I'm gonna do is select count, okay, parentheses, and then I'm gonna do from tracks. Okay, within these parentheses is saying what do I want to count? Okay, if this is like a nice little shortcut, this asterisk just means count all my records. Very nice. This will give me 3,503. I have 3,503 tracks. I think yours might be one or two less. I think I was like adding tracks and deleting some tracks. Okay. You can also, this parentheses, you can also specify like any column. So if I wanted to count by track ID or something. Oh, sorry, here you go. That. How are they different? I'm a little concerned right now. Oh no, they're the same. Okay. Yeah, you could do that. Or you could even do how many composers are there, right? Same idea. Select count, and then you could just put in composer from tracks. So go through my tracks table. How many composers are there? Ah, there is 25. Actually, I could have just combined this. What am I doing? I could just combine this here. And then I get, oh, let's save this. I didn't even save this. Let's go and save that. Call this manipulation. So same thing. So with your assignment, go ahead and save this as a SQL file and upload that SQL file for your assignment. All right, just count composer from that. If I run this, I'm gonna get now see. There you go, my count here. And then, so select is kind of doing the same thing as it always did. It's showing my what columns I want to show here. Slightly different way to think about databases, right? Let's do a couple more, and then we'll call it a day just because oh wow, it's already 3. Yeah, I want to go over some of the answers with you for the midterms. So I'll post some more examples just so you have it, just so you can just see other examples. Let me do just a few more, and then we'll call it good. How about like, remember we saw max, min, average? Right? So in my tracks, I have all these albums. I have all these, I'm sorry. In my tracks, I have, if you remember in my tracks, I have all these milliseconds, right? I know like what all the songs, how long each songs are, right? But what if I want to know like which one is the shortest song, or what's not which one? How long is the shortest song? How long is the average of this? What's the average? What's the maximum? Or what's the longest we can do that as well. So apparently the average song or average track is about 393,000 milliseconds. The shortest one is this one, the longest one is this one. Alright, all this information is cool, but let's get a little more specific. What about like how long is like one album? Or like one right, in one album there's a lot of tracks, right? So if I go back to, let's see, to select tracks, right? I have a lot of tracks. And notice how like my album ID, like look at that. Album ID 1 has all these tracks in it. Okay. So what if I want to know how long is this one album? Okay, so let's go ahead and do that as well. Okay, we have that sum function as well. And if I do sum milliseconds from tracks, okay, but we're going to be specific here. We can do it where album ID equals 2, or 1. Sorry, 1. So now we did a quick sum on, in my tracks, only album ID 1. I only care about ID 1. That's how long album ID 1 is. Again, just, you know, interesting stats. If you are into that kind of stats stuff. All right, we gotta do one group by. Okay, cool. This is all good to know. Trying to see what we can do that's not too crazy here. Okay, that's great. But now I want to know like a little bit more information here. Like what, not just album ID 1, but like for every, how about for each of my album, I want to get how long the album is. Okay, so the keyword here is for each. Right, that's when, oh, we got to use group by, probably. So how long is each album? Okay, so I don't care about just album ID 1. I want to see every single album here. Okay, so to select album, I want to see my album ID. Okay, and then let's do sum. Okay, from tracks. Same thing, but we're going to do group by album ID. Whoa, now this is a little more interesting, right? Now we can see side by side. Oh, album ID is that long. Album ID 2 is this long, so on and so forth. So this group by allows us to literally group, okay, all my album 1 together, all my album 2 together, album 3, album 4, album 5, all of these together. And now I have a nice, a more interesting information here. Okay, I have a few more examples, but I'll go ahead and post them online. I think you get the basics of it. You can, there's a little, like, there's these group bys can get a little more complicated when you start joining tables, right? Like, oh, how about the artist? How about how many artists per album or something like that? It gets a little more complex. So, okay, but I do want to go over the midterm, so I'm gonna pause there. Could you bring up the midterms, please? Thank you. All right, before I pass these out, just a few notes about the midterm. Okay, so the average, thank you. Right, the average was, I forgot, 77, 78. Median was a lot, not a lot, but it was about 80 here, higher than the AM section. But it wasn't a big difference, so I was actually pleasantly surprised that both sections had around the same average and median. There were a lot of B's, actually, a lot of B's. Most schools got B's, which I think is a great grade for college, but I know some of you want that A, right? I get it. Just a few notes about the midterm. So this midterm is worth 12.5% of your grade. Okay, you have another exam coming up. So you know, don't be too discouraged on what you got here. Just take, you know, again, this is not a traditional class where the midterm is worth like 50% of your grade. That's kind of, I think that's ridiculous. So again, don't, you know, the final project is worth a lot more here. Take this as a learning exercise, right? Really try to understand what you missed and why you missed it. And see if it's something that was just a stupid mistake. Was it a stupid mistake, or was it like fundamentally something you just didn't understand? And if you want to come and ask me and talk to me about it, I'm more than happy to. Please ask me, actually, if you really didn't understand why you got something wrong, because ultimately, these, again, all the skills we covered in this class, this is used in real life. So ultimately, you do want to understand all of this if you want to eventually become a developer, or even if you don't want to become a developer, if you want to know some of the front-end topics for your job. These are all really practical things to know. So if you didn't, again, let this be an exercise way of helping you learn. Don't let it be like, oh my gosh, like I'm gonna get a B in this class and my GPA is gonna be 3.8 instead of 3.9 or something. You know, don't let it be such a distressor. All right, okay. So and again, we can't take this home. Please don't take them home. I will hunt you down if I don't have it back. Just take a look at it, and if you want to come see it again later, if you have more questions, anytime in the semester, just come visit my office hours, or you can make an appointment with me, and I'm happy to show them to you. Okay, I'm gonna call you guys by last names. If you could come up here, I know it's a little crowded up here, but come up here. Can we get last name A's and B's? Oh, and C's as well. Just come up and grab your exam. A, B, and C. Okay, I'm gonna give you, after you get the exam, I'll give you a few minutes to take a look over it, and then we'll go over the answers. And then after I go over the answers, if you still have questions, please come talk to me about it. Okay, we have last name F, G, and H. Okay, F, G, H.